Today we are going to be ranking non-political things that I would change about the world. It's going to be a very, very interesting video. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Hey, if you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Guys, before we get into it, I must apologize for my appearance. I don't really know how it's coming on camera right now. Just went for a run with the dog and I had to shower really, really quick, and I only have so much time to record because I have a date with the finals with a very good friend. So I'm ready to sit down, record. Let's talk about things that I would change about the world. So these are all, of course, my opinion, and there is a couple things that dives into the political spectrum, but I'm talking more so about how I'm not going to dive into one side of the aisle or the other side of the aisle because, of course, I keep that stuff private. It's way too touchy, and I think that I have a pretty good list over here, so let me know what you think about it down below, guys. Long intro. Apologies for that. Let's get into it, and, of course, this isn't everything that I would change about the world. It's just some random things my wife and I thought up of. So, IQ test to work in fast food. Guys, I don't know if it's like this in the rest of the world, okay? But I live in Canada, and I'm thinking like Tim Hortons. I'm thinking like McDonald's, the things that are absolutely everywhere. The amount of stupid people that get just the most basic things wrong. Like, you ever see those? I see TikToks all the time like this because, again, I don't know if it's just a Canadian thing, but there's so many times where I've seen things in, I've experienced this where it's like, hey, can I get a large black coffee? And somehow, like, they'll mess it up. Somehow, I don't even know how that's possible, and they're just flat out rude. It's the worst kind of place to be in here for fast food, so I do believe you need an IQ test to work for fast food. But in the grand scheme of things, and it's important to note S, A, B, and C we all have here, so these are all good things. Nothing would fall into the D tier. In the grand scheme of things, I think that this falls a little bit more into the C tier. Now, road rage. I'm ready to, I know I'm going to strike a nerve with this one, guys. People with road rage should be banned from driving cars. I wholeheartedly believe this should be a thing. My dad taught me when I was a kid that a car is a giant missile that you're driving, and for the people who can't contain themselves emotionally and just get so bent out of shape because somebody decided to change lanes or somebody wants to get in front of them, I get it. There's idiots on the road, okay? But for you to actively lose your cool and not be able to control your own emotions on a road when you're driving a missile, when there are such horrible things that could happen. Like, I had a job a while ago where I've worked in an emergency room for years, and you guys, I can't even explain to you the things I've saw, the way people came in broken and just their body parts off, like from just simple car crashes, and it's caused a lot of times too by road rage and people not being able to contain themselves, people not being able to follow the rules, or people starting to race, or people just, oh, that guy got in front of me, I need to get in front of him. This is something that I'm very passionate about because I've seen countless time and time again people broken and had their lives changed, and the despair in their families, people dying. I have seen it every day when I was working. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I don't believe that you should be able to have the privilege of driving if you can't contain yourself. So this is absolutely going to the S tier. People with road rage banned from driving. Now, sticking around with the IQ test, okay? IQ test in order to be a teacher. I don't know if this is just about, it depends on what age you are watching this video, of course. I don't know if this is a common thing that people experience throughout life, or if people are just getting dumber as the years go on, because I'm looking at so many people my age. I'm 26 years old. I'm looking at so many people my age who are becoming teachers, and I'm like, wow. Wow. Like, that is totally not okay. And just like, how many people, and now that I think about it too, there are so many people nowadays that I would just absolutely hate. Like, teachers I had growing up, like, I didn't know like what type of person they were. Of course, I was a kid, like the fun teacher, the teacher who didn't really want to teach anything. You absolutely need an IQ test to become a teacher, and there are people I wholeheartedly believe would fail this. Now, it is taking care of the youth, which is something that's very, very important. So I actually think I might need to throw this into S tier, but I think that road rage is totally at the top of the list down here. Now, martial arts being mandatory for young men. So many people are struggling with mental health nowadays. More and more people, as time goes on, are getting more and more depressed. Something that can fix all that. People are having self-confidence issues. Martial arts, and what I mean is, like, I should have been a little bit more specific. Mandatory for men in the sense, once you get to like sort of a high school age, that could be up for discussion. 6 months to a year, just get yourself in there. Get addicted to it. You will more likely than not probably want to stay, and it will fix most of the problems in your life when it comes to your self-image and things like that. So this should absolutely be mandatory. I'm going to put it into the A tier. I don't think that it doesn't have the same societal effect that these two do, and I might be switching things around once we get towards the end of the video, but let's continue on to dating apps being banned. It's one of the reasons why the culture is just completely failing. Nobody's meeting organically anymore. It's the reason why so many people have bad boyfriends, bad girlfriends. And of course, we can get into that whole conversation, which I'm not going to get into it. But long story short, girls have all of the options in the entire world. Their standards are being brought up and up and up, and they're using it kind of like, what do you call it? Like a social media now. It's just ruining dating. It's making it into a game. It's making it into something for attention, and people aren't meeting organically anymore. And you wonder why relationships are failing. But this is tough. I might move this one around. I'm going to put it into the B tier for now, because people are still screwed up enough that dating apps being banned won't just fix the entire dating issue. Now, something that I have been incredibly passionate about, and I've talked about on other channels, is banning adult content. This is the biggest problem in the youth today. It's getting into a problem with young women today, but more importantly, it is weakening society. It's getting, if you want to talk about dating apps ruining relationships, I can't, like, we've had other videos talking about this, guys, man. We've had other videos talking about it. I don't want to get into like the hardcore details about what kind of damage it does to your brain. Irreversible damage at some points. It's making people, here's the sum up for it. It's making men not interested in real women anymore. This is the biggest problem in society, I might say. So this is going to the S tier. It is going in front of road rage people. Now, this one's a little bit, and you can tell that I was just like randomly brainstorming when I was coming up with these things. So I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. By the way, I would love to make a part 2 to this. IQ test for being an influencer. To have like a public social media page, to have a verification, you also need an IQ test for that, because you are influencing people. But on the other side of the coin, I would argue that it's like, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, okay, so there's so many influencers that shouldn't be influencing people. There's people that shouldn't necessarily have a voice on impressionable people, but it is the fault of the impressionable people that they are listening to somebody with low IQ. That's where I'm kind of stuck on this. But at the end of the day, I think it is best if we have those people with the blue check marks. I think it's best that we have an IQ test for them. But this isn't nearly as important as the rest of the list. I'm going to throw it at the bottom of C tier. Guys, let's continue on over to something about YouTube that I really missed that not a lot of people would probably remember. I want YouTube to go back to a 5-star system. Bring the dislikes back. It wasn't a like and dislike system. If you guys remember when YouTube, I want to say it was when YouTube first started, it had a 5-star rating, and it was so much better than just a flat like or dislike, and you didn't even have to check the comments. You could kind of gauge how the video was based on the star system. I thought that was infinitely better. Now, when you're comparing it to the rest of the things that I just brought up here, it is not important one little bit. So it's probably going to be at the very bottom of the list. 5-star system on YouTube is going to the C tier. Now, something my wife actually thought of, because like I said, we were brainstorming this type of thing together. For houses, because I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world. I know that people are struggling over in the West, but Canada specifically, there is a housing crisis, and there are so many people just looking to get their house out of there no matter what. And they literally, like, and then again, I don't know if this goes on in the rest of the world, but they paint over mold, they paint over holes, there's stuff wrong with the foundation. Like, you guys kind of get what I'm saying. I think that it would be a fantastic idea. My wife came up with this. If there was somehow you could figure it out, some law where if you figure out something is really, really wrong, like with the piping or something like that, and it wasn't told to the people buying the house, it should be on that responsibility of the past owner's house, or the past owners, of that house to pay for that. I think that's a fantastic law that should be brought into play. So past owner pays, although I don't think, I don't know. It's more important than these things. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of B tier over here. Or, no, I don't know, man. Top of B tier. That's what we're going to put over here. Now, continuing on, tipping culture. Tipping is absolutely outrageous. Guys, we have lost what tipping was for in our society over here. It was to give a little bit extra to somebody that went above and beyond. That's what it's for. It's not to pay somebody's wages, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it in the comments either. I don't want to hear anybody saying like, oh yeah, but we rely on tips. Like, no, that falls on your owner. It's not my responsibility. I shouldn't be forced to tip anybody. I'm sick of being asked, and while I'm at it, I'm sick of being asked to round up my dollar. Everything like that. The culture for tipping is absolutely ridiculous now. And I'm expected to pay like 15% at the very least for if I want something delivered. Like, if somebody came on time, if somebody was pleasant, like that's when you tip somebody. It's not just a before thing. And if I don't tip the 15%, if I don't tip the 20%, then I worry about something happening to my food. I'm sick of it. And I'm really, really sick of it. But at the end of the day, I don't think it matters as much as these. I'm going to put this right below IQ test for fast food. Now, something that I am incredibly passionate about is people who cough out loud. I am so sick. And guys, I am a huge germaphobe. And it's not even the fact that I'm just a germaphobe. Like, don't get me wrong. This definitely plays into a factor, okay? I spend so much time working on being healthy. Like, I'm eating better as the days go by. And more importantly, I so struggle, or like I work so hard on struggling to live in this world and not get sick. I don't touch my mouth in public. I wash my hands. I have hand sanitizer. Everything over here is sanitary. It's perfect. I get that the world can't be like that. But for me to take care of myself for the amount that I do, and somebody just walk by going, that is so ridiculous. And that should be like, it should be like on site. That should be allowed, by the way, okay? Coughing out loud is ridiculous. And I'm talking about the people too who cough like this. This is not okay. This is how you cough. That's how you cough. You cough in your sleeve. You cough in between your elbow. When you start coughing in your hand and you start touching everything, that's just as bad. This is ridiculous. It should be allowed to be on site if people do this. There's absolutely no excuse for it. This is going to the S tier, guys. Oh, man. Guys. Guys. I feel more passionate about this. Like this, the problem is, okay, these two are obviously the most important for society, but when it comes to things that like literally affect my life, because this doesn't affect my life, okay? This doesn't affect, well, this does affect my life a little bit because you can't control what happens externally on the road. I'm putting this into the S tier. This is the most important issue so far, and that's what I would fix if I was in charge. Now, continuing on, government mandated fitness. Just look at the world. If this was in play, it would be fixed, kind of like mandatory martial arts. I think this is a very important thing. So many people are, and I have to be careful with YouTube because you're not allowed to insult anybody anymore. So I'm just going to say that this would be good for people. I'm going to also put this into the S tier at the bottom of S tier. People who talk during the movies. How many times have you been to a movie theater and there's people just yapping? It's okay to laugh. It's okay to like whisper to somebody next to you like, hey, I didn't really understand what's going on. That's okay. But I'm talking about the people who are just laughing on their phones. I'm talking about the people who are just literally having conversations during a movie. Again, it should be allowed to be on site for these people, okay? There is no little bit of sympathy in my heart for people who talk during movies, but at the end of the day, it's not, it doesn't stack up to the rest of it. But, oh man, I'm going to put it all the way down below no tipping because I'm not at the movies enough. That's a problem. Now, AI driving, I'm very pro AI driving. I'm sick of people, a little bit more with the road rage. People cannot drive. And if like I was in charge, I swear, man, like with the tests that I would do, if I could like, if it was feasible for me to like actually test everybody, I know that's impossible. If I had like some godly power to test everybody at once, probably 10% of the world would be allowed to drive. So I'm sick of it. And again, brings me back to my days working in an ER. I've seen too many car accidents. I've seen too many people have their lives changed and their bones just shattered like beyond belief. Like you guys would not believe the things that I've seen. Like, and I don't mean even to sit here and be like, oh yeah, I've been through stuff in my life. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm being completely sincere. And like, people don't know how bad you want to call it a driving crisis. You don't know how bad and how dangerous it actually is to be on the road until you've seen what I've seen. I am very pro AI driving, and I know that machines can malfunction. I know that, and to be honest with you, I don't even care if I'm spied on. I'm not doing anything illegal. I think that this would fix the world. I can't wait for it to come about. The only problem is it's going to take over jobs, but at the end of the day, I'm sick of people dying, and I'm sick of risking my own life. Like, I take my dog for a drive every single day. The fact that, like, I always have to worry about someone hitting me and then my dog flying out my windshield, I shouldn't have to worry about that. I'm throwing this into the B tier right at the top. Now, something else that I'm extremely passionate about over here is hunting for sport. Guys, it's important to make a distinction here because I made a video talking about Tifu's hunting thing. I understand, and I'm okay. It sucks, but again, I'm more of the opinion that it's the reality of the world, that things need to suffer. We need to eat. I eat meat. I eat lobster. Like, there's suffering that goes on for me to consume. For the people who kill their food, that are passionate with their kill, and very, very careful with the life that they are eliminating. They do it quick, they do it painless, and it's solely for the purpose of eating. They have respect for their kill. Those people I am not talking about. I'm talking about the people who think it's fun to watch things suffer. Hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot a deer today and take a picture with it. I think that's disgusting. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I don't understand how anybody is actually okay with this. And it brings me like, and I've said this before and people don't really like relate to it, but it's like aliens coming to the planet and just going, hey, look at that human. Pow. Like, it's literally what you're doing. Especially when you're talking about, like, I can even understand the people who are like, okay, the June bugs live for 24 hours or however long they live. What's the point? Like, they don't feel anything. They don't have an active brain. But for the people shooting like horse, deer, elk, wolves, that stuff, and I don't care. Like, another thing that I disagree with, but I understand, is population control. I'm talking about literally the people who just want to go shoot things for fun. Okay? That's it. I need you to not take me out of context in that sense. I feel very passionate about this. It makes me sick to my stomach. Okay? It really, really does. This is going into the S tier. I'm going to put it right ahead of the IQ test for teachers. Now, no divorce. This is a very touchy one. There are absolutely reasons for divorce. Things like abuse, right? There are reasons to get divorced, but I'm talking about people who just have a little bit of an issue. The wrong people get together, they procreate, and then they just don't want to face the consequences of their actions. No, they should be forced to stay. They should be forced to raise the kids. I'm talking about just the general people who get divorced for kind of dumb reasons. They should be forced to work it out. The children do not deserve that. And I know you're going to come back and say like, oh my God, the children are going to grow up like suffering. No, you can't have a broken home. It can't be better, man. So there needs to be specific laws on this. And I don't have a strong stance. Perhaps I can elaborate on that in a future video. But I'm not talking about just banning it completely. I think there needs to be restrictions on what happens with divorce because too many people are getting together and too many people are getting divorced. And now if there were rules on this, then society might actually improve a little bit in the sense where people will be more careful about the partners that they choose. This is going to go into the C tier as well because, again, and I know that like this is objectively more important than some other things that I put on here. But again, I'm talking about like this list is what I would do first. That's the order. So that's where I'm going to throw this. I'm going to throw this over into the C tier. I'm going to put it right behind IQ test for fast food. Now, motorcycles off highways. They should be banned from highways completely. They are going too fast. They're zipping in between lanes. There's too much traffic, too many cars, especially when it comes to things like rush hour. And it brings me back to my job in an ER. In my entire life, guys, I wanted a motorcycle. I think they're awesome. I always wanted a motorcycle. My dad had motorcycles. I love them, okay? But when I started working in emergency, every day, except winter, of course, but I'm thinking every day where you could drive a motorcycle, you should see what these people look like, the people that go on highways. And it's for the fault of like other people bumping into them, people not seeing them, or them going too fast, or them just hitting a rock. It's too dangerous to be on highways. That person wipes out, the motorcycle goes flying, you cause another car crash. I think they should be taken off the roads completely when it comes to highways specifically. But if you're talking like a back road or something, if you're talking about like a little bit of a residential area, that's where you should drive them. And I get it. It's probably fun driving on the highways. And I want to myself. But again, you have not seen what I've seen. I think this needs to go into the B tier. I'm going to put it at the bottom of B tier. Now, fighting and dueling. These are kind of like the same thing. It should be allowed at times to be on site. I live in Canada and we do not have self-defense laws. If somebody breaks into my house, I have to let them do what they want. That's real, by the way. That's real. I can't hurt them unless it's like a legitimate life or death situation, but even then it's touchy. I don't know what it's like for the rest of the world. I know besides the US, of course, the US are allowed. I know there's like even trespassing laws over there, but even to like, of course, like I just brought up an extreme, but I think that it should be even okay. For example, like somebody coughs in my face, like you want to talk about coughing out loud. I think stuff like that should be allowed to be on site. I think that it would fix a lot of people. A lot of people are too comfortable yapping and talking and too arrogant and don't have to face the consequences for their actions anymore. And dueling specifically, you want to agree to a fight. I think that's totally okay. And I think that would fix the world a little bit. So I'm going to put both of these actually. Dueling and fighting are a little bit different. I think fighting should be more, I'm not saying to just let anybody just go punch anybody, but I think that more people, like if somebody's getting aggressive with you, if somebody's like screaming in your face, you should be able to punch first, because I'm stuck in a spot where I've been in martial arts my entire life. I know how to fight. But the problem is if I get into an altercation with somebody and they're coming up in my face, I can't punch first. But the first thing that we learn is to, once you're in my range, you're getting popped in the face. But then it's my fault, but I didn't do anything. You know what I mean? I think the rules need to be bent a little bit when it comes to fighting, and a lot when it comes to where I live, okay? I'm going to put this one to the A tier. I'm going to put it into the A tier. And dueling specifically, I think it'd be cool if two people could just like, hey, let's go outside and take care of business. I think that you should let those people do that. Whether it's two idiots taking care of themselves, maybe they, okay, maybe they take care of themselves, you know, take them. I'm not going to talk about that. Or it's just two people that want to slug it out. I'm okay with that. But dueling is going to go into the C tier. I'm going to put it, I'm actually going to put this one all the way at the bottom, okay? Now, people should be forced to shower. People should not be allowed in restaurants. People should not be allowed. And this comes from, man, like, this comes from a place where I really, and we made a video on this on the channel, actually, if you guys want to check it out. The Angry Asian made a video talking about how he's really, really into nerdy things, but he hates nerds. I relate to that so much because as somebody who grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, as somebody who grew up in the Smash Bros. Community, going to tournaments and stuff like that, my brother and I felt like we're like the only normal ones there because everybody else stunk. Okay? And I know that nowadays people are putting in rules that you need to have deodorant on and stuff like that. That's like a long time coming, man. So even just anywhere, like you want to go to a Walmart, I don't care. You need to smell good, and there should be security who have a smell test and they boot you out for it. But at the end of the day, I don't feel as passionate about this as anything else. I'm going to actually throw this one all the way down to the bottom. Now, this is something that I would change for sure. 10 to 12 hour shifts. Again, going back to when I was working in an emergency room, there was a lot of us that worked 4 days a week, 10 hours, 12-hour shifts. I think that's just better than a 9-to-5 work week. I think it's infinitely better. You get an extra day off, and even just there were people that just worked 36 hours, 3 days a week. You have a life outside of work. I think it's incredible, and I think that the majority of jobs should take this into consideration, or not even just take it into consideration. I think that I think employers need to be able to do this. I think the government should just change the world. I would definitely do this. And so many people are so sad because they don't have a life outside of work. They live for the weekend and you only get 2 days off, 1 day off, and then you have to do all of your errands in that day. I think this would really, really benefit the world for everybody to work 10 and 12-hour shifts. I'm going to put it right behind. Yeah, I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to put it right behind martial arts for men. Let's continue on. I don't know what this is. Oh, monthly subscriptions. Ridiculous. I just downloaded a Photoshop program. Why is that a subscription service? And now we're hearing about printers being a subscription service. Soon you're going to have your fridge be a subscription service. It is ridiculous that everything is becoming a subscription. It's ridiculous that I have to like eliminate some things now because everything's a subscription service. I want a one-time payment for things. Like, I get having subscriptions for things here and there, things like Netflix, stuff like that makes sense. But when I'm buying like a printer, come on, man. That is insane. I heard about, and I don't know how true this is, I was reading actually, I can't remember where it was, but I was reading like mouses. They're trying to get people to have a subscription service to your mouse, and you won't be able to use it if that's not the case. And if you get all of the mouse companies on board to do that, then everybody, of course, will be able to do that. But the problem is somebody will come out with a mouse for really cheap and say, hey, you won't be able to, you won't need a subscription to use our mouse. And then everybody in the world will buy that. I think subscriptions need to really, really hone it down over here. And I'm going to put this one actually kind of like with the no tipping, except I feel a little bit more passionate about it. Now, excuse me for a second, guys. I just need to make this tier list a little bit smaller before we continue on. There we go. Let's fix this. Okay, parents can see the history of anybody in their household, including their kids. That would fix more of the banning corn issue if they're looking up things that are inappropriate, if they're going down rabbit holes that they're not supposed to. I think that they should be able to see not exactly their chats and what they're talking to with various people. I think that's an invasion of privacy, but I think that they need to be able to see the websites that they're visiting. Think they need to be able to monitor that stuff, okay? And I know there's probably programs that you can instill into your like kids' devices, but I think it should be a lot easier than it is. But at the end of the day, again, I don't feel as passionate about as the rest of the things that I talked about. I'm going to put this at the bottom of B tier, okay? Bikes off the road. There are people who respect the road, okay? And they drive in the bicycle lanes. They ride on the sidewalk. But there are way too many people who are just legitimately acting like they're a car, and they act like they own the road, and they legitimately think that they own the road. You do not pay taxes. It's ridiculous, okay? You do not own the road if you are on a bike. It should be okay to hit these people, not purposely, but I mean, like, when all of a sudden they're just flying in front of somebody, like you've seen so many videos. It's ridiculous. They shouldn't be allowed on the road. Bikes off the roads are going into the bottom of B tier. Now, all right. You can't be a piece of crap and work in healthcare. I have seen a lot of great people working in the healthcare field, but I've also seen a lot of really, really selfish, horrible, and impatient people. That should not be allowed. You should be fired, and you should be ashamed and publicly shamed, by the way, for the way that you treat people, for the job that you signed up for. I don't care how much of a stressful day you're having. This is not okay. People are sick. You signed up for it. Boo-hoo. You have a rough day. Boo-hoo. You're doing a lot. There's a lot of great people, but man, have I felt bad for a lot of patients that I've seen in my day, okay? You can't be a piece of crap and work in healthcare. That is going to the bottom of A tier. Now, okay, guys. All right. You want to talk about the workforce? This here has allowed for the most useless and selfish and disrespectful people in society to keep their jobs. I used to work in a McDonald's, and they fired all the people they didn't like, all the people who were not friendly, all the people who were incompetent, all the people who just weren't good for the team. They weren't picky about it. It's just if they didn't like you for any reason, like if you weren't an asset to the team, then you got the boot. That was perfect. And I'm sure that there are times where not having a union is being completely taken advantage of. I understand that. But I think getting rid of them is a net positive. I work with too many people, and I've had many, many jobs in my entire life. I've worked with too many people or too many places where there was a union, and then nobody faces criticism for their actions. They're allowed to slack off. They're allowed to not do their job, and they're allowed to have other people pick up for them. And you're not even allowed, like, here's a prime example about what I'm talking about, okay? My job is I do inventory for a hospital that I work at, okay? I walk around, and I was doing inventory in the kitchen, ordering some food. Like, hey, what are we missing today? I knocked over one day, and I'll never forget this. This was like a year ago. I knocked over like a little thing of ketchup packets on the floor. And it's no big deal. I knocked it over. I'll pick it up. People run up to me and be like, you can't do that. That's a housekeeper's job. Like, they're freaking out about it. That type of stuff. People knock things over, just leave it there. They have to call somebody from a whole other department to come in and just clean up that ketchup. Unbelievable. That's just a very, very small example about what I'm talking about. But just in general, like, useless people are allowed to work. Disrespectful people are allowed to work. I think it's a net positive to get rid of them. But at the end of the day, they do have, don't get me wrong, they do have their uses. I'm going to put it at the bottom of B tier, okay? Safety tests prior to buying a home. I shouldn't have to sit here and worry about my neighbors potentially starting a fire because they don't know how to clean lint out of a dryer or something like that. Cooking, people need to just learn basic safety. Like we took a look at earlier with that Twitch streamer. The Twitch streamer who didn't know what to do with a fire. She didn't know how to cover her pan. I don't remember exactly what was going on with her fire, but you need to have a safety test before you own a home. Like, not online, in person. You need to demonstrate your ability. I don't want to worry about my neighbors having like an explosion, a gas leak, anything like that. I don't want to worry about that anymore. I think this is very important. I'm going to put it at the bottom of A tier. Renting rooms. This one is a little bit of an issue, okay, guys? Because at the end of the day, and I'm very conflicted on this, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this down below. I'm conflicted on this specifically because if you buy something and it's yours, you can do what you want with it. But we have such a crisis in my country right now that I almost think that, and I hate to do this because at the end of the day, it's somebody's home. When you're buying it to rent it out, I don't think that you should just rent out rooms. It's crazy because people are paying like $3-4 grand for just a quarter of a house. Things like that. It needs to be fixed somehow. For the time being, I would put a rule on this. So because I'm so conflicted on it, I'm going to put it at the bottom of C tier. That's where I'm going to throw that. 18 plus to be on social media. Self-explanatory. Like we were talking about with dating apps, CORN or, corn. Kids can't go on social media. It has damaged society. Everybody is. And it's not even just damaged society and like seeing all the, you're getting conditioned. You're seeing things that you're not supposed to see when you're a kid. People are getting thrown into the adult world when they're supposed to have their childhood innocence. I think that social media should be completely banned until you are 18 years old. And even then, there's people that shouldn't be on social media. But even in your developing years, you shouldn't be on these things. It has been a disaster to the human race. And that's what leads to this, by the way. I think that this is very important, and I'm going to put it at towards the top of A tier. I'm going to put it right in between fighting. Now, finally, The most political one that we have right now is an IQ test to vote. How many bots do you know? How many people do you look in a day and you go, wow, you can vote? There are people that I see all the time in my life where I'm like, I cannot believe your word or your say counts just as much as mine. It's ridiculous. The amount of people who will just vote because they like somebody, the amount of people who will vote because somebody told them to, it's insane. It's insane. I am all for freedoms, okay? But this is not a freedom that should, like, this should not be freedom, excuse me. This should be a privilege. And I think that you need an IQ test to vote. And I think that you could even dive deeper into that. I don't care. You need to riddle out all the bots. They shouldn't have a say. It's not okay. And this is very important to me. I'm going to put it, but then again, I also don't think it matters. Oh, I know that's a little bit of a tough one. I wouldn't be shocked if our say like legitimately didn't matter. And so I've been a little bit less attached to this one. I'm going to put it into the A tier though. I'm going to put it right in front of social media. That's where I'm going to throw it. So guys, that is my official list for things, random things that I would change about the world, not diving specifically into real political issues. And I know there were things that were kind of on the political spectrum here, but I think it was a pretty safe thing to talk about, and I'm ready to hear about it in the comments down below. Let me know what you thought about everything here, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. In the meantime, why don't you check out this other tier list that we did on the channel, ranking fictional characters that I believe I could beat in a fight. I would love to have you guys over there. Take care, everybody.